but I'm going to be talking about privacy in the days of AI and emerging tech. So we also often say that privacy, is it going to be real? Is it needed? Is it dead? Some people say, do we really need the GDPR? Is AI going to be everywhere? And I'm going to demystify some of those things. But if I do that, I will like to ask you some questions. I don't know if you can answer in the chat and we can capture it. Uh, and if it's not possible to capture it, answer it for yourself because it will allow you to follow the conversation. Would you be willing to share more personal information if it meant receiving better or more personalized services? Most people would answer yes. And most people would say, yes, it's okay. And youngsters would say it even more. And if you're thinking of saying no, I like to ask you, are you using Gmail? Are you using Yahoo Mail? Have you used Yahoo, Hotmail, or Gmail? If you have, I think that's what you've done. Now, another question is how many of you believe that you have control over your personal data? Now, when I ask this in a conference, most people will say, put their hand down. So first question, yes. Second question, no, they don't believe that they have control over their personal data. And then and I ask you also, if you do, say yes or no in the chat. Do you envision a balance between privacy and innovation, especially in the AI and quantum world? Most people by this are saying no. First question, mostly saying yes. Second and third, very often the answer is no. So what I want to emphasize here is the sentiment amongst people like you, me, and every one of us is we are willing to share personal data if it means receiving better information, better product, better service. But we want to remain in control and we want balance between privacy and innovation. We are open to share data, but as long as we know who is having that and what is done with that. So I asked AI, what would AI suggest to talk about in this presentation? And AI suggested this. Maybe I didn't use AI well, but I didn't like it because it was too theoretical. It was too monotonous. And I like to talk to people rather than bombard them with information. So I chose not to share this with you. So what I'm going to share with you is my own presentation with a few elements from AI, especially when it comes to images. But for the rest, it's mine. And so today we are going to talk about what is artificial intelligence, because most of us talk about AI, but very few of us have a very clear understanding of AI. So we'll emphasize that so that we can build on the conversation. We'll also talk about what is data privacy. Again, most of us think we understand privacy, but unfortunately, most of us do not have a very clear idea. Maybe it's not you I'm talking about. Maybe it's the other person sitting, but just saying not many people have a very clear definition of AI and privacy. So we will baseline, and if you know your definition, your understanding would be validated, and then that will set the stage for the conversation on the future. When would AI be here? Would privacy be there? How can privacy be there? How can we find a balance between AI and privacy, or AI quantum and privacy, new age, new tech, emerging tech and privacy? So that will be the flow with which we will go. So let's start with what is AI. And as we start, I think again, I want to extend a big thank you to all of you from ISACA Warsaw chapter who have invited me. It's a big honor. Thank you so much. All of you who are attending this or maybe listening to it recorded. Again, it's for all of you that we do these events, whether it's ISACA Warsaw chapter or ISACA Belgium chapter or any other ISACA chapter. We do these events for you. So big thank you for all of you for joining. I think Jean already explained about me. Just connect with me on LinkedIn, maybe listen to the Fit for Privacy podcast or growskills.store, take an advantage of a training. But as I start, because it's a human presentation, so in a human presentation, it's important to be clear that whatever I'm saying is my professional or personal judgment. If you want to implement it in your organization, use judgment, use discretion, and the context of your situation matters. So we were talking what is AI. Well, every one of us has an opinion, but as the picture suggests, it has two elements. AI has two elements. And we also understand the two elements would lead to a lot of revolution. The two elements I'll come to in a minute, but we also understand that these two elements will bring in a lot of revolution. And the revolution, like the steam engine, like the bulb, like the internet. So it's going to be big, it's going to be significant. So coming back to the two elements, what are the two elements in AI? If it's going to create a revolution, what is AI? Well, AI is to be defined in two words, artificial and intelligence. And if we define intelligence, intelligence is the ability to solve problems or create products that are valued in different settings. And that usually is done by humans or human beings through their brain, through their what we call salience or human capability. And that's how we associated intelligence as the ability to solve problems or create products. Of course, I know in the wider sense, animals also have intelligence and they use it. They don't create products, but they solve problems. They find it relevant for them. So if intelligence is the ability to solve problems or create products, the artificial intelligence would be getting the ability to solve these problems, to create these products through artificial intelligence rather than human intelligence. So artificial intelligence is when intelligence is being delivered artificially other than living forms. Now, if you think that's a bit too simplistic a definition, well, the ISO 22989, well, that's a standard which defines artificial intelligence terms. It says it's a science and engineering of creating intelligent machines in fields like machine learning and deep learning. And it involves, as we all know, ingestion of data, analysis of patterns, usage of algorithms, and learning, reasoning, and self-correction and corrective guidance. And that's what we associate intelligence as also the ability to read something, interpret something, understand something, and self-correct, and also produce something. That's what we've been doing. And that's when machines do it, we call it AI. But then we sometimes talk about machine learning. Now, machine learning is a subset of AI. Yes, machine learning is a subset of AI, wherein a machine learns and performs some tasks. If you've gone to a car manufacturing company, there are a few robots that are performing the tasks, but they are performing mundane tasks and hence it is robotics. We'll come to robotics in a minute. But when the machine is also learning apart from performing standard tasks, then it is machine learning, and it can be supervised, semi-supervised, unsupervised, or reinforced. We won't go into that detail, otherwise it becomes a technical session. But the concept here is machine learning is a subset of AI, and when machine is intelligent by itself, it is artificial intelligence. But then when machine starts to learn deeply, create networks, for those of you who understand how our brain works, brain has neural networks, and there are connections between these networks that allow us to remember things, do things, and recognize patterns and so on. That if the same thing is being done by machines or computers, then we call that deep learning. And deep learning is a subset of machine learning. And robotics is not AI usually. Robotics can use AI, but robotics is designing, constructing, operating, or using robots to perform tasks. So it can be without AI or with AI, like 10, 15 years ago, or for last even 30 years. In some factories, they've been using robots to perform simple tasks like assembly of a car door. Just pick the door, put the door, connect it. That's it. There's no intelligence. It's simple science. But when comes perception, cognition, and actions, that's when robots also can have AI. Like you would have seen the Sophia robo or any other robo. Now, we also hear a term called Gen AI. So Gen AI is when AI creates new content, like text, image, music, or anything. So we use ChatGPT, Perplexity, Delhi, or anything to create. For example, if you've seen some last few slides like this, so this was purely created by me, but this one on the left side, this one on the left side, or this one on the left side, what is happening is there are images which are created. Now, these images are created by AI. I asked Perplexity to create, using ChatGPT, some images for me for this presentation. I gave it context. It was a little bit challenging. I had to refine my prompts, but finally it gave me images which I felt were relevant, were reasonable, and I used it. So all the creation of these images is Gen AI. And we also talk about quantum. So AI is right now leveraging on the computing or the computers which are based on 0-1 system. But we believe that if we use quantum computing, we can leverage the principles of quantum physics, and we can have exponential processing power, and we can solve problems which are unimaginable. If that happens, I think then AI will kick off really in a big way, and then we will be revolutionizing the field of AI. But right now, quantum computers are like the IBM computers in 1960s, which were big and bulky and not accessible to everyone. So in short, AI is the commonly used word, machine learning is a subset, and deep learning is a subset. Gen AI and robotics are using AI, Gen AI to generate some content and robotics to perform some task with an intelligence. And quantum computing is the means through which AI will have tremendous power, and we will have tremendous possibility. So that's AI in nutshell. I hope that makes sense. Now the question is, if that is AI and that's the possibility and it can be a revolution, how soon will it be? For that, we need to understand AI in a more granular manner. So I will explain AI to you in 7 different words. So one, AI is basically rule-based system, like the game of chess. I think in 1990s, there was a computer which was beating Garry Kasparov. Of course, first time it could not beat him, but in a few months, they reconfigured it and it could beat it, because it was about the rules of chess to be followed, to be understood, and to be played out. So the computer was smart enough. And sometimes in planes, we have these games of chess which we can play. So that is also an artificial intelligence which is rule based, and we call it stage 1 of AI, the basic AI which we had in 80s and 90s. It continues to be there, but now we've added what we call context awareness and retention system. That is in ChatGPT, Siri, or Perplexity. You can create a workspace. You can say, this is my context, these are my documents, this is my website, this is my profile, and this is what I do. And in this context, please answer me. So in your chat prompts, you can say context, you can give it awareness, you can give it the purpose. And then when you ask a question, being context aware, it's being able to answer better. For example, if I say, what is the role of an auditor? Then I can ask Google, but it will search and give me from different websites. But if I ask ChatGPT with context saying, I am looking to understand the role of auditor because I want to make an application for auditor, can you tell me what does an auditor do? So if it's a human-like conversation in 2 or 3 chat prompts with context awareness, it gives you better answers. Then there's domain-specific mastery. That is, like before this conversation, I was having a chat with few colleagues, and we were talking about generation of code, writing code which developers used to write. So that field is extending significantly, because a few months ago we could do simple coding, and nowadays we can do a large amount of code, or we can even do some context specific coding. Say I want to create a website, or I want to create a product for inventory management, and in that I want to do this, this, and this, and the code will be generated, the product will be generated as if it has been developed by a professional company after 6 months or 3 months. So that's domain specific mastery. And then there's thinking and reasoning. That is, it can mimic, it can replicate the human thought process. That is, it can solve problems which are unfamiliar, and it can read in inputs, it can analyze the data, and it can identify trends and predict future. Like hopefully it can predict, or it is already predicting to an extent, the weather, but things other than weather. Then there's the Gen AI, or not Gen AI. The Gen AI is generative AI. Artificial general intelligence is something separate. That is what we also call strong AI, that is capable of doing multiple things like human, and it can also understand emotions, and it possesses something called self-consciousness and awareness. Who am I? What do I do? And what? Now, important that when I talk about one, two, three, four, those exist. But when I'm talking about five, it's a concept. So stage five is a artificial general AI is a concept, or artificial general intelligence is a concept in which your AI system, your robo or whatever machine is using that AI will be able to reason and talk to you like a human being. Now you'll say ChatGPT does that. Well, ChatGPT does reasoning, does not have emotions, does not have self-awareness, does not have consciousness. It just through prompts it's exhibiting that. And then the next stage is super AI or artificial super intelligence. That's a level it'll be difficult to define. That'll be so integrated, so interwoven, and so far superior to human beings that we will have difficulty managing it. And then there is AI singularity, that is, it would become uncontrollable, like in Mission Impossible, that we would not know how do we manage, and it'll be difficult for humans to comprehend. Now, 5, 6, 7 do sound scary, but these are concepts. It's believed these will be here. You talk to an expert, somebody will say 5 years and somebody will say 50 years. And as is with the future, nobody knows. But 1, 2, 3 are real, and we are at the cusp of 3 and 4. So even with the stage 1, 2, and 3, we are able to do a lot. Like the image on the left of this slide is generated by AI based on context awareness. So if these 7 stages are very complex for you, I would say, okay, let's try to simplify, because 7 sometimes is not easily comprehensible. Let's say there's narrow AI which performs some defined tasks like driving a car. Gen AI, general AI, which can mimic human intelligence to an extent. And then super AI, which will outperform us as humans. So we were talking 7, now I simplified to 3 for easier understanding. So if we now have to say where we are in the development of AI, we are at the end of narrow and beginning of general. So that's where these self-driving cars are. They're starting to mimic human intelligence, but insofar it's straight line, straightforward, not in the complex manner. And that's where we are in a stage called broad AI, somewhere between narrow and general AI. So 2 messages from here. Don't get scared with general AI or super AI, or if you hear terms like this artificial general intelligence, artificial super intelligence, AI singularity. Yes, these are scary, but not for now. For now, they're at the end of narrow AI and beginning of Gen AI, general AI, and that's very useful. So Gen AI, when I say I'm using general AI, but Gen AI people also refer to as generative AI. So be careful when people are saying Gen AI. Is it general AI or is it generative AI? So generative AI, we have general AI expected to be here soon, and it depends on whose definition you're talking. So we are in broad AI, and one of my messages here would be AI is here and AI is now. So don't wait. AI will come. AI will be here. AI is here. A bit of it and a lot of it is coming. Now, if AI is here, what can we do with AI? So I wrote some of the use cases like this in after my research, reading some articles. But then I said, if I present this to you, you will not feel very happy because it doesn't look good. So I asked AI to, take this input and create an image, a nice image. It had tough time, or I had tough time with it. And after some 5-10 minutes of prompting and explaining that do this and do that, I got this image. But I can feel and I believe that this slide was good, but this is better. So one of the messages here is also, if you use human intelligence in collaboration or along with the AI, artificial intelligence, you can make your life better. Like me, I could not have created this slide. Of course, I could hire a designer, but then it's a long process, 1 week and all. But here, in a matter of 15 to 20 minutes, with some prompts and all, I could create an image. So use AI for your assistance. And with AI assistance, you as human beings, you as risk professionals, privacy professionals, security professional, audit professional, become better. So start using AI. Don't think AI will come, it will take my job. AI is here, AI is available. Take it to make your slides better, to make your whatever, wherever you need help. AI can be generating content for you. AI can be your customer support. AI can be in education. AI can be in financial services. AI can be used for personalized learning. Like it's in this case, it misspelled because it's AI. It didn't know it has to do spelling check, or it can be used for autonomous agents or personal support, or even in real estate, and more importantly in cybersecurity or privacy as well. So if AI is here, so what? Do the data match it? Do the data say that? Because if I say AI is now, AI is here, you'll say, yeah, it's his opinion, so let's back it up with some study. So there's a company called McKinsey. They do a lot of research and are very expensive if you have to hire their consultants. So I researched, they publish something called an AI report on their website, and I looked at it. So, and they say 78% of organizations are using AI in 2025. So 78 means majority of organization, 3/4. And that's a significant jump from last year. And 78 is one who are using in one or more function. So if you look at 5 or more function, the adoption is still low. You see 16% are using it in 5% or more, or 5 functions or more, but 28% are using in 4 or more, but around 50% are using in 3 or more functions. So AI is already here, AI is already prevalent, and it's no longer limited only to labs. It's being used in medical devices. It's being used in self-driving cars and many other places. And like you saw, I used AI for creating marketing copy or images or music or video or code. All that is still possible. So 78% is a big number. That's why I say AI is here, AI is now. But if AI is here and AI is now, what about your job? So the simple answer is, if you learn AI, you will survive. But if you don't learn AI, you'll have a challenge. And as Harvard stated a few years ago, I think in 2023, AI won't replace humans, but humans with AI will replace humans without AI. So if you want to learn, if you want to grow, and if you want to be relevant, learn AI. So if that is AI, AI is here, and there's more coming our way in the stage 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7. What about our privacy? Would AI take away our privacy? But as we discuss that, the more important question is, what is privacy? Well, I believe in last few years, or maybe when you were a kid, you would have certainly received a message from somebody saying, I have shared this with you. Please don't share it with someone else. Has it happened to you? If it has, it demonstrates two things. You are trusting someone to keep the information, or someone is trusting you, if you are the kid, to keep the information. And someone expects you to keep it secret, keep it protected. Same way, privacy is an individual's right to choose what they share, with who they share, and when they share. So that right to choose is privacy. Now you'll say, in what sense? Well, or does it depend? Yes, it depends on personal preferences. It also depends on gender, male, female share it differently. It also depends on cultures and morals, and even society. What may be okay in Poland may not be okay in Belgium, or may not be okay in China. And ethics, these vary significantly. So based on ethics, personal preferences, morals, cultures, gender, and society, the definition of what is personal and what is privacy can change. But the other dimension is that while privacy was simply a right to choose, that don't click my photo or click my photo, the challenge has been that we are no longer in the analog world. We are in the digital world where we are using devices. Like on my desk, there are about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 devices. So, and these devices are collecting data when I'm speaking, when I'm touching, when I'm playing with it, or even when they are lying down. And then we are also making some payments. Flash your card and the payment is done. What does it all mean? We are living in the world of data. So what you call privacy, my right to choose whether my photo should be clicked or not, or my right to choose if my secret should be shared or not, is becoming my data. Not all data, but my personal data. So privacy is becoming the protection of personal data. Now, without going deep into what is personal data is anything that identifies you directly or indirectly. So it can be your name, location, age, or address, or income. Now you'll say in income, maybe not, but if I say the guy in your company who earns 1 million plus, it becomes easier to identify rather than everyone else. So each of these parameters can allow you to identify are we talking about. If that is privacy, privacy is I have a choice. Privacy is I in the digital world knowing who has my data, for what purpose. And I can ask them, what will you do with my data? And I'm informed about it. And if I'm not happy, I can complain. So that is privacy in essence. And if it seems so simple, well, the UN Declaration of Human Rights, 1948, Article 12 says this, which is open to interpretation of you, but it says no one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference with his privacy, meaning you cannot click my photo if I don't want, example, or simplified. And everyone has right to protection of the law against such interference or attacks. And here, those attacks, those protections are in context of the data. So if AI is here, privacy is a basic need. Every one of us needs it, because if I ask you, please share your bank account number, you will probably share it. But if I ask you, please share me with your bank account username and password for login, you will be hesitating. So that means privacy is important. The threshold at which you stop sharing information is maybe different for you, me, and our young generation, but privacy is important. So if AI is here, privacy is important. Where are we headed? And that's a very good question. And in our jobs, we have to guide that. And in that guidance, it sometimes looks like a maze. How do we get out of it? Is it possible to protect privacy while being in this emerging tech world? Yes, it is, if you define rules. So rather than letting people wander around in your job like this, give them clear pathways, give them clear direction on what they have to do, how they have to move, where they have to go, what direction they have to take, which, if this, then this. So those kind of situations, if you create, it feels like driving on highway rather than being stuck in a maze. So how do you do that? The question is, create a balance, follow, look at the rights, make sure you're following the law, make sure you are ethical. And if you are in EU, you follow the regulations. It's as simple as that. And in that context, if you have to balance AI and privacy, one of the instruments you can rely on is the EU AI Act or the EU GDPR. So AI Act from AI perspective and GDPR from the privacy perspective. AI Act helps protect citizens' rights, harmonize regulations, and promote the responsible innovation. Now, I know the last one is not many people believe, but how can you have AI without any rules? How can you have AI without any controls? I give you an example. If you build a house or bought a house, in that house or building that house, there are many checks and balances. Or if you buy a device, it usually says ISO compliant or quality checked or something. Now, when you're buying a device or building a house, you have to go through so many checks and so many standards. And that house is just staying in one place. You're buying in a city in Poland, it's staying there, it's not moving around, it's not going to be used by the entire world. Only people in that house will be using it. But still, you have to go through the energy checks, the compliance checks, the design checks, the architecture checks, the soil checks, and so on and so forth. And if you're buying a device, it has to go through quality checks. So a device that is used by you or a house that is used by a few people has to go through so many checks. Nobody complains. And then this AI, which can be just a website, anybody can use it. 8 billion people can be impacted by it. We say, why do we put checks? Why do we put balances? Why do we need to submit the design? Why do we need a conformity check? Well, a simple fitness watch which you put on your wrist is quality tested. It's approved. For its design is approved. It's validated. And you want the AI not to be regulated? Well, that's a little bit too much, no? So if that's the case, what are the key things EU AI Act is asking? Is it too much? Is it too little? Now, I won't give you a lecture on EU AI Act, but let's try to understand at a simple level. So AI Act says, look at the risk in the system that you are creating. There are criteria based on which you can say high, medium, low, or there are 4 categories. I won't go there right now. But if you classify that risk, certain types of systems are forbidden, like the systems which can create challenges in society or create, threaten the well-being of society, they are forbidden. But for all high-risk systems, you have to follow the rest of the requirements. And if it's a low risk or medium risk, you don't have to do anything. So it's a very rational way of saying it, saying, if your system is creating high risk, follow rest of the requirements, otherwise stop here. So that's what EU AI Act says. Now, if your system is high risk, you must have data governance in place. That means you put systems, processes, procedures to say what data you use, where it is, how it's being managed, or how is the quality of data assured. And you also put some procedures for managing quality of that system. You make sure we don't end up in a, especially it's a high risk system, that we end up in a mission impossible kind of a situation. So there is human oversight, and you're testing, you're making sure the data and the system are accurate and robust. Also perform some rights impact assessment, that is, the system will not create challenges in the society, and rights of individuals, especially privacy is also a right, is not being impacted. The system will be transparent. The system would have basic cybersecurity and privacy hygiene. It will be tested. I'm sure you don't want to use a system which is not tested, especially which is high risk. There is a record keeping, that is, there information about what data is being collected, how, and what has gone into the mechanism in terms of building that system. There is technical documentation so that somebody can understand. And there is a conformity assessment. Would you like to buy a high risk system without any conformity assessment? No, you don't want. And if it's a high risk system, authorities are informed. There is a marking called CE marking. If you pick anything that you buy, next time in the shop grocery store, you will usually see a marking saying quality checked, or some, like if you're in Britain, it's Britain standards, British standards something institute, and then every in EU also there is a standard. So just they're asking that in the high risk you mark that standard, and when the system is live, please keep checking, please keep monitoring. Now, it seems like a lot of requirements, but if you look at slightly differently, which is a fancy requirement, which is a requirement you would not want a high risk system to comply with? I think none of them. You want the high risk system to comply with all of these. And these are only for high risk systems. For non high risk systems, none of these applies, only transparency obligation applies. So AI Act is one way of creating balance. But then there are AI standards. Standards which allow you to create safe AI. So there is one of the most prominent standards is the ISO 42001, for which I also deliver the lead implementer and lead auditor training. And that gives you the requirements for establishing, implementing, maintaining, and continually improving your AIM system. That is Artificial Intelligence Management System, which is basically a governance system. So ISO 42000 is one which you can use. And if you need to assess the impact of AI systems to determine an impact on individuals and societies, remember the human impact assessment or rights impact assessment. If you need to do that, there's a dedicated standard called ISO 42005. And if there are organizations that provide audit or certification of artificial intelligence management systems, they have to be certified with ISO 42006. And if you are now lost, what is AI? What is machine learning? What is robotics? What is deep learning? Or other terms in AI, there's a dedicated standard ISO 22989. If you remember the definition of AI, which I shared earlier, that was from ISO 22989. And then if you want guidance on managing the effective use of AI and you want to enable it and govern it, then there's 38507. And if you manage risks but want very specific information on how to manage AI risks and how to integrate them into AI practices or AI systems, 23894 can be useful. And then you may also want to say, because you hear this term called AI trustworthiness or trustworthy AI or responsible AI. So if you want to consider those factors like transparency, explainability, and controllability of AI systems, then the trustworthiness can be established through ISO 24028. And if you need a framework for describing AI systems for use of machine learning, then there's 23053. And then there is also NIST risk management. Some of us say there's no regulation, but there is a NIST risk management framework which helps govern, map, measure, and manage the AI risks. Now, my idea of sharing all this is not to scare you that you have to read and understand so many standards. My idea here is to say, if you want to protect the IP, you want to protect the systems and build responsible systems and build AI in a responsible manner while respecting privacy, there are many options for you. And you use whichever is appropriate at that time or a combination of all of that. That is what I'm saying. I'm not saying use one or use another, or I'm not saying this is the only way. You have to use the best. And what I'm also saying is take a principle-based approach. Focus on transparency, focus on management, oversight, do testing, and do governance. And I can assure you that all these standards, all these regulations, including the GDPR, the EU AI Act, the DORA, and you name it, all of them talk about these words. Basically, take a principle-based approach, manage your data, manage the systems, do enough testing, keep an oversight, do governance, and be transparent and take care of human. So assess the human safety. And I think it's all logical. That is what can help us create trustworthiness. Now, at this point, it may seem that I'm talking theory and nobody is following, meaning in the world, nobody is following these things. These are just for some people who are consultants in these regulations or those who are writing these regulations. So I went back to some research and I checked, what plays a critical role in protecting privacy? And the answer was overwhelmingly risk management and data governance. And are organizations doing it? Well, the McKinsey study says, yes, they are doing it. They are doing it for risk and compliance. They are doing it for data governance for AI. They are also analyzing for the AI strategy and everything else. So risk and data governance are the top of the list actions you have to do. If you remember the EU AI Act, the first requirement was risk management and second one was data governance. And that is what organizations are doing. Maybe not based on the EU AI Act, maybe not based on an AI standard, but in general. If they're doing it, the question is, are they using it for AI practices? And most of them say yes. Most of them use dedicated teams to drive Gen AI. Most of them use data and risk governance in all their AI systems. And then we ask, are they using Gen AI to mitigate these risks? And again, the answer is yes. So it's a cyclic thing. They use rules, they use data governance and risk to protect privacy, but they also use AI to protect privacy. And as another consulting firm, Boston Consulting Group, would say, you won't get Gen AI right if you get human oversight wrong. That means if you want to get the Gen AI or AI right, you need to put a human in the loop. And if your human in the loop is not right, your AI will be wrong. And again, it's backed by evidence, it's backed by data. So majority of people, so here you'll see, majority of people are starting to, again, the numbers are not as high as earlier, but majority of people, so 30% of people are using review of Gen AI outputs. So 1 in 3 persons is already using it, 100%. And if you look at more than 60%, then more than 50% of people are checking the AI output. So not just using AI. So AI will not just go there and take our jobs. But then the question is, how are things evolving? Well, things are certainly evolving from text to images to code to video to voice and everything else. So Gen AI is everywhere, almost. But the question is, with all this, AI is here, privacy is needed, you have the standards, and people are doing data and risk governance. What do you have to do? Because if you go back into your organization after this 1 hour of webinar, what do you take along? Well, to my clients, I say define a policy. Define a policy for AI, define a policy for responsible AI at the highest level, and define necessary policies underneath it, like how do we develop AI or how do we use AI. If needed, also have a policy for privacy. Set up some governance teams, a steering committee or another committee as you feel fit. Not too many, but at least one, wherein you govern the implementation of this policy. Anything that is assessed, that is evaluated based on this policy, is put into a register, and risks are identified and managed. If the risks are identified and managed, it's natural. There will be concerns on privacy and security, and those concerns or those requirements are taken care, and privacy and security elements are implemented. If you've done all this, what's the harm in writing a end user licensing agreement, a privacy notice, or a cookie notice and saying this is how we do things in our company? And if you do that, check the conformity internally and report to that governance committee. And if you do these things, I think you have a reasonable framework of developing responsible AI. Now, this is a crux or an extraction of all these standards and regulation that we talked about. But now the question is, what is your key takeaway? What can you take away from this apart from doing these things? I think when you go back into your organization, there are two things. You as a human being have to be differentiating from everyone else in the market. And so does your company. And so does your AI system. So it's all same. You want to be better than others. You want to be differentiating from others. You want to be having the best salary, the best job, and everything and everything. Your AI system also has to be different in the market, the best in the system, best system in the market, and being able to be helpful for your customers. And same for your company. It wants to be the best company that develops responsible AI, takes care of privacy, follows the rules, and is not fined and will not be penalized for non-compliance and so on. So if those objectives are there, how do you do it? Keep learning, keep growing, and keep using AI to differentiate, to make things better, to make things simpler. Because AI, as I said, is here, AI, as I said, is now, and while respecting privacy. And if you do that, that's the magic of getting things done in the modern world. That's how you'll keep privacy in balance in the emerging world. So thank you so much for all of those who you listened to this.